Welcome to the home of the Vita-Mix Corporation, where our motto is, educated consumers have the highest level of product satisfaction. Vita-Mix has always made consumer education and customer satisfaction our #1 priorities. Our products carry the longest, most ironclad warranties you can get on our type of products. Furthermore, we were one of the first companies to install toll-free customer service telephone lines. We have done thousands of live demonstrations for the general public at various fairs and exhibitions. And now, in keeping with Vita-Mix's reputation for innovation and implementation of modern technology, we are providing you with this in-home product review and cookbook video. Meet our president, William Grover Barnard III.
Thank you very much. Somebody was asking about quality, and quality is a subject that's very dear to my heart. I studied a little bit about it, and we certainly try to make good quality. In the process, we've had to sort of develop a philosophy of quality, and it includes many things. It's not something that you really want to boast about or make a lot of noise about. Good quality is really the result of a lifetime dedication to better products, products that are more useful and that have a long, trouble-free life. Now, quality is not something that you discover, that you just chance upon. It's the result of hard work. It's something that you have to demonstrate rather than claim. Quality is versatility and usefulness for the customer. Now, as you watch this tape, we'd like for you to see those things that we feel make for better quality. There's the dedication of our staff to you, the customer, and the dedication to our products. There's the care that we take in the manufacture and even in the sale of the products in showing you how it works and what it does. Now, we've been in the business of product demonstration since at least 1933. Our company is 12 years older than that even. We believe demonstration is the way to sell a product, through demonstrated performance. You'll learn what the product is and what to expect of it. The product becomes more useful to you in that way because you do understand it. It is a form of one-on-one communication with an expert that you usually do not find when you buy a new product. This tape brings you the demonstrated quality right into your own home. Now, for almost 70 years, Vita-Mix has been the pride of the Barnard family, of my grandfather and my parents and their children and their grandchildren. All of us, along with our staff, have been dedicated to bringing you quality and healthful products for you and for your loved ones. I'd like to thank you very much. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Wayne Ride, who is going to demonstrate the Vita-Mix.
I'm going to show you 5 things this evening that you've never seen in your life, okay? Number 1, we're going to take little wooden blocks made from 2x4s, and we're going to put them in the Vita-Mix machine, and we're going to grind them into sawdust. Now, you, of course, won't do this in your machine. This is a destruct test. This tests the durability of our drive shaft components. And furthermore, you're going to see that it's going to make a lot of little dents in our container. So never do this at home, but I want to impress upon your mind the power that a Vita-Mix machine has. It rotates at 24,000 RPM. That's 400 revolutions in 1 second. The other 4 things I'm going to show you this evening that you've never seen any appliance do is, number 1, we're going to take whole kernel wheat and go from flour to bread dough in the pan, never touch the dough with our hands until we eat it. Number 2, you're looking at the only total juicer on the market. All other juicers on the market, regardless of the brand name, are juice extractors. They use centrifugal force or they use hydraulic pressure. One way or the other, they separate the juice from the pulp. We drink the juice, don't we? What do those machines do with the pulp? They throw it out, don't they? But in a Vita-Mix, excuse me, in a Vita-Mix, you get all of the nutritious pulp and the fiber. The number 3 thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to cook a half a gallon of fresh vegetable soup in 60 seconds. Any of you own microwaves? Can you do that in a microwave? Not in 60 seconds, can you? And number 4, which is one of the fun things that we do in a Vita-Mix, we're going to freeze a half a gallon of ice cream in less than 60 seconds. You believe that's possible? You ever made ice cream the old-fashioned way? How many of you have ever made ice cream the old-fashioned way? It takes at least 45 minutes, okay? 18-inch biceps, 10 kids that, take their turn. And electrics, we have electrics nowadays. Are they any better? Well, they don't require as much manual labor, but do you use them any more frequently? It takes too long. You want ice cream, you want it now. And so we're going to show you how to do that in the Vita-Mix. Now, this is, like I say, a little test that the engineers designed. And so I'm going to wear goggles. If after this test I forget to take the goggles off, will somebody tell me to take the goggles off, okay? Now, before I do this, can you see up in the mirror? You should be able to see directly right down on top of that container. I want to show you the patented blade reversal. This is important because a lot of people look at a Vita-Mix and they think they're looking at a blender. How does it differ? In a blender, aside from the initial impact when you turn it on, the blades just stir the ingredients. They chase the ingredients just like a merry-go-round, don't they? Like cars traveling down the freeway in the same lane of traffic. In a Vita-Mix, the ingredients go in one direction. When we reverse those blades, they come in the opposite direction and collide head-on at nearly 500 miles an hour. So using the example of the freeway, get a car in the wrong lane of traffic, have a head-on collision, and you understand what happens in a Vita-Mix compared to a blender. Furthermore, you've never seen a blender do all those food processes, have you? Say yes. Okay. Watch in the mirror. This little dial right here is our rheostat speed control. And this lever right here in the center position is off. When I flip it up, the blades will run forward. When I flip it down, the blades will run reverse. And in the down position, it's spring-loaded. As soon as I release it, it automatically turns off. Okay. So on slow speed, watch in the mirror. Forward, reverse, forward, reverse, forward, reverse. Now watch it at high speed. Now the question that comes to your mind is, how can you do that at 24,000 RPM and not break the gear? How many of you would drive down the freeway 65 miles an hour and shove your transmission in reverse? Nobody, I hope. You understand magnets? Like poles repel, opposite poles attract. So we don't have any gears in this machine. We do it electronically. We reverse the polarity of the motor, and the rotor has to go instantly in the opposite direction. It's brilliant engineering, okay? So let's go ahead now. I feel like I'm going on an airplane flight. Now what we have done, just so that you know, is this lid ordinarily has an opening in the end of it, but we have glued a piece of Lexan over the top so that we don't get anything coming out the top. So I'm going to turn on high speed. The longer it grinds, the finer it gets. Let's see how we did. Okay? Now, there's been much ado about high-fiber cereal lately. You make cereal like this, okay, you'll have the highest fiber cereal available on the market. Are you impressed? The Vita-Mix is a grain grinder. And unlike a stone mill grain grinder, we can grind all types of grains, including high moisture grains such as popcorn. Now, ordinarily, cornmeal is made out of dried field corn, but popcorn is a little more readily available, so I just bought some popcorn. I'm going to add about 2 cups, and we'll grind it into cornmeal. Now, the advantage of doing this, of course, is when you go to the store and buy cornmeal, number one, you pay a lot more money than I have to pay if I make it fresh. But if you read right on the box, it says degerminated. Degerminated means they remove the most nutritious part to lengthen shelf life. Okay, watch in the mirror. But the advantage of grinding all of your grains fresh is you're going to get 2, 3, and 4 times as much nutrition. Okay? The appliance that does that, if you don't own a Vita-Mix, will cost you $250. It's called a flour mill. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make you a loaf of 100% whole wheat bread. What we do now, this recipe is in your recipe book, those of you that own a Vita-Mix. Take 2 cups whole kernel wheat, clamp the lid in place and turn it on at high speed. Now, always get your lid in place. Wheat has over 36 vitamins and minerals. It's called the staff of life. It's the richest source of vitamin E that we know of, okay? And of course it has the high fiber and the bulk. While the machine is grinding, I'm going to pre-measure our other ingredients. The recipe calls for a teaspoon of salt. If you're on a low-sodium diet, you can leave the salt out. It's not essential. But by all means, measure all of your ingredients very precisely. Okay. That recipe calls for 1.5 cups of cold water. Now, the reason we're using cold water is this machine makes the flour hot. And if I add warm water, like you're accustomed to when making bread, the resulting temperature may be too hot for the yeast. But by adding cold water to the hot flour, the resulting temperature will activate the yeast, and this bread will raise in about 15 minutes, whereas otherwise you'd have to wait maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Okay, additional ingredients that we need. A tablespoon of honey. This is an optional ingredient because when you're using 100% whole wheat, we have naturally occurring sugars already in the wheat flour sufficient to feed our yeast. So, 1 tablespoon of honey. Can you see the flour coming out the top? You can see the moisture in the lid, the moisture that occurs in the wheat. Okay, we have now 100% whole wheat flour. It's important to do that this way because once you crush wheat within 24 hours, nearly 40% of the food value oxidizes and it's no longer there. Now let's simply add our other ingredients. Honey settled on the bottom. And the machine does the mixing and the kneading. Always add yeast. This is not an optional ingredient. I tried it one time. It didn't work. Okay, clamp the lid in place. Leave the speed dial on high speed and reverse it 2 or 3 times. You ever mix bread dough that fast? Now fill a 2-cup measure full of water. Dip your spatula in the water and scrape all the flour off the sides of the container and go all the way to the bottom. Make sure that there are no flour pockets in the bottom of the container. Now we're ready to knead. We call this kneading technique a tap release technique. The red lever in the down position is spring loaded. As soon as I release it, it'll pop back up. We're going to take the bottom of our fist, we're going to go tap release, tap release, tap release. Watch. Watch it in the mirror. See how easy that is? Periodically stop, take your spatula, and compress the dough right back down into the bottom of the container. And repeat the kneading technique. Now the reason you knead the dough is that texturizes the gluten. And you can tell good bread before you ever bake it. It should have a nice, soft, spongy texture. Now if you don't do that, you don't work the gluten sufficient, you'll end up with crummy bread, crumbly bread. Okay? No crummy bread. But the gluten sticks everything together. Can you see that in the mirror? You'll see that start to form a ball and begin to bounce just like a ball on a seal's nose. Now, at this stage of the recipe, you can add other ingredients if you like. Dates, nuts, raisins, alfalfa sprouts, or wheat sprouts. Okay, watch closely. That's ready to come out of there. I'm going to knead it into a ball of dough. Actually, let's do this. Let's add some raisins, okay? You like raisin bread? Can you buy 100% whole wheat bread with raisins? I don't know if you can or not, but you can make it. And if you like, you can even add a little cinnamon. Let me just compress those down into the dough a little bit and repeat that kneading technique just a couple of times. Can you all see that in the mirror? Okay, very quickly, we're going to turn the container upside down over the bread pan. Now, you have to do this quickly, but by all means, do it accurately, okay? You should at least hit the bread pan. Now, this is our coupling, and if you turn this, that will rotate the blades back and forth and help to dislodge any bread dough trapped underneath the blades. Can you see that? There's some dough in there. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a spatula. I'm going to rotate those blades back and forth and try to trap that other dough in one corner and add it to the bread pan. Now, do you want to clean that by hand? If I had to clean it by hand, I wouldn't be making bread right now. And that's the beauty of a Vita-Mix. It becomes self-cleaning. Simply add water about the level of the handle, clamp the action dome in place, turn the machine on, and you create a 265-mile-an-hour whirlpool. Now, while the machine is self-cleaning, let me shape this loaf. We'll put it on top of the oven over here and let it raise. Now, if you're buying wheat in bulk, this loaf of bread, if you buy wheat and yeast in bulk, you can make a loaf of bread like this for about 35, 40 cents. It has no preservatives. To buy whole wheat bread without preservatives probably costs you in the neighborhood of $2. Okay, now we probably have some wheat kernels trapped in the spigot. No problem. The blades act just like a pump propeller, and when you open up that spigot, it force flushes the spigot clean. To make sure it comes clean, reverse it. Okay? Now that's a powerful agitation, a 500-mile-an-hour agitation. Did you ladies realize the significance of what I've just said? Most powerful washing machine on the market. Your husband ever gets rain around the collar? You put that shirt in here, reverse it once. I guarantee he'll never recognize that shirt again. Okay, it's all stainless steel. Is that a nice way to clean out a bread maker? Just simply put it in the drain rack and you're finished. Now, for a beginner, that might take you 10 minutes. I can't go to the store and buy bread in 10 minutes. May as well make it. Okay, next one we're going to show you is a 100% whole wheat carrot pecan cake. Okay, this recipe calls for 1 3/4 cups of whole wheat flour. Okay. And you notice that I added 2 cups of wheat kernels, right? And we've got extra flour in here. When you grind grain, it expands by about 25%. And we'll just save what's left over here, and you can put it in the refrigerator and use it on another occasion. Now what we need to do is we need to chop carrots. And I have about 2 cups of carrots cut into 1-inch chunks. This machine does the chopping. And then without having a lot of separate processes, we don't have to mix separately, we don't have to chop the nuts separately or anything. This machine will do all the food processes. This is simple. I'm going to leave the machine on high, and we're going to reverse the blades at about 2-second intervals. Now watch. Now we're not chopping anything. The machine won't chop until you begin to reverse the blade. Now you can go to low speed. Is that a fast way to chop 2 cups of carrots? Nice. Okay, so the recipe calls for a cup of chopped carrots, incidentally, if you're chopping carrots, you can do what I just showed you with yogurt, walnuts, and/or raisins. Make a nice carrot salad. Okay, at this point, let's add all of the ingredients. 2 eggs. That's the cinnamon. This is yogurt. Safflower oil. Honey. This is salt. Now let's add our flour. And baking soda. Clamp the lid in place, high speed. Those ingredients are mixed. Add your whole pecans and continue with the same technique. The machine will chop the nuts. Put in a pan. This is a 9x12 glass baking dish. I use the glass only so that you can see it in the audience. Obviously, you can use any kind of a 9x12 dish you like. So we chop nuts, we ground whole wheat into flour, we chopped carrots, and we mixed the cake all in the same container. Now I'm going to hand this to Rosie, and she's going to pop this in the oven. Cleans out real easy. This will just, for the most part, rinse out. Take 4 slices of bread, and you have fresh breadcrumbs. Next, I want to show you how to make powdered sugar. In a Vita-Mix, you can save 50% by making your own. Add about 2 cups of granulated sugar. Now, if you're watching closely, I'm going to stack this cheese in one side of the container. Nice way to shred cheese. I've cut the meat into about 1-inch chunks. Put it down the Vita-Mix. How long does it take to grind meat in a Vita-Mix? 3 seconds. Watch very closely. Here's how you crush ice with a Vita-Mix. Nice way to crush ice. You know, people just cannot comprehend that in a matter of 2 or 3 seconds you're going to make a half a gallon of coleslaw. Nice. In a Vita-Mix, you leave the peeling on. So these hash browns will be nearly twice as nutritious as those you can buy in a grocery store and a lot less expensive. Nice way to make fresh Southern-style hash browns. Okay. Now in a Vita-Mix, you can chop any kind of nuts. These are peanuts. You can sprinkle them on a Danish dessert, okay, cookies, icings, what have you. Now the nice thing about a Vita-Mix is you can make an all-natural peanut butter. When you go to the supermarket and you buy peanut butter, if it does not have a layer of oil on top, you didn't buy peanut butter. You bought peanut-flavored margarine. Read the label. It says peanuts, hydrogenated vegetable oil, dextrose, and salt. Okay, there's a chunky style. If you like chunky style, you stop right there. Okay. Let's make creamy style. We're going to make a cheese onion tomato soup. This is cheddar cheese. The recipe is in your cookbook, and you can use any kind of cheese you like. You may prefer a Swiss cheese, or you may want a mozzarella. It's up to you. Add a couple of fresh tomatoes, slice of onion, and I'm going to add a big tablespoon of tomato paste. Instead of tomato paste, you may want to add a couple of more fresh tomatoes. Season that however you like. I'm using chicken bouillon. So simply add your hot water. High speed, and turn the machine on. You ever made soup that fast? Have any of you ever used Musco in your soup? Musco? You go to the refrigerator and everything must go? I thought that's how they invented soup. Okay, next is total juice. Now, Vita-Mix is the only total juicer on the market. All other juicers are juice extractors. And as I mentioned earlier, juice extractors separate the juice from the pulp. We drink the juice, they throw away the pulp. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says that if you take a pound of lemons and squeeze the juice out, it has 90 milligrams of vitamin C. If you run the same pound of lemons through a Vita-Mix with the peeling on, you get 346 milligrams of vitamin C. That's 4 times as much. In the instance of an orange, by drinking total juice made in a Vita-Mix, you will triple your vitamin C intake. And in the instance of an apple, you will double your vitamin A intake. Now, we've seen lots of information recently about fiber, pulp. Let me explain something to you. I think you understand the difference between 100% whole wheat flour and white flour. Wheat flour is a whole food. White flour has been processed, okay? It's less nutritious. If you think about it, the same difference exists between juice made in the Vita-Mix, it's a whole food, compared to extracted juice, which is technically a processed or refined food, isn't it? They threw away the pulp. Okay. Okay. In our new recipe book, we have over 100 juice and beverage recipes, and they are great. So just add a slice of lemon. Now, an orange is picked green and dyed orange so that it can be shipped to market and sold before it spoils. So what you want to do is you want to remove the dye portion of the peeling because it's bitter. And that is a rule of thumb. When you're making total juice in a Vita-Mix, remove any bitter parts or else it'll make the juice bitter. Now, the other benefit to making total juice in a Vita-Mix is in addition to the ascorbic acid, you also get the bioflavonoids, which are in the white part of an orange. And the white part of the orange is what most juicers throw away in the form of pulp. Now, I want to show you something. Nowadays, you're paying about $1 a pound for produce. Run this orange through a juice extractor. We get to drink that half. We throw this half away in the form of pulp. So how much does orange juice cost you now per pound? $2, because you threw half of it out. In a Vita-Mix, you get it all. One time, a lady came up to a seminar I was doing, and she said, you know, I've had a Vita-Mix about 6 weeks, and the other night I made some V8 juice for my husband. And he told me that if I ever made that stuff again, he'd divorce me. And I says, well, describe to me what you did. And she says, well, I put in a carrot and some celery and some cabbage and an onion, a little bit of garlic, a rutabaga, some broccoli, some cauliflower, a beet. I says, wait a minute. That is not V8 juice. That is V12 juice, and it'll probably choke my horse, okay? You can't just put vegetables in here indiscriminately, okay? But you don't have to worry about that, because like I said, we have nearly 100 recipes in our new cookbook. In the instance of an apple, if people are watching, throw away the stem. If they're not watching, they won't ever know the difference. And I suggest that you quarter the apple. And this is for your own peace of mind, especially if you're a vegetarian. You need to take a little peek inside and make sure that there are no little wiggly proteins. Okay? Now I have some fresh pineapple here. Okay, if I turn the machine on right now, I do not get total juice. I get baby food, or fruit sauce, or juice concentrate. What do we do with juice concentrate? We dilute it, don't we? Okay, so the rule of thumb here is simply dilute your total juice concentrate with an equal volume of ice and or water. Now, if you're making juice in a Vita-Mix and it's a little on the thick side, what do I know? You didn't add enough liquid. Okay, this is pretty simple. Clamp the lid in place, turn the machine to high speed, and flip the red lever up. Now, I like to add the banana while the machine is running. Nice thing about a Vita-Mix is you can juice a banana. A juice extractor will not juice a banana. You ever try to squeeze the juice out of a banana? Try it. Okay. If you're going to add the whole banana, at least take the label off, right? I do that because some garbage disposal say don't use a banana peeling because the tough fibers will wrap around the blade like screwing around an axle and stall the motor. We have a recipe for taking your banana peelings, your chicken bones, and your leftovers, purine it into Vita-Mix, and making cold compost. Okay? Deteriorates a lot faster. I want to sweeten that with a little bit of honey, and then I'll take the first sample. We have orange, apple, lemon, banana, and pineapple because we use the peeling and the fiber, nutritious, rich pulp. We have doubled, tripled, and quadrupled your nutritional intake compared to extracted juice. Okay? Now, I always take the first sample because that's why I get paid, $3 an hour and all I can drink. Delicious. Now, before I serve this to the audience, I do have one word of caution. 10 minutes after you drink total juice, you be very careful. Especially when you go out to the car to open the door, you may rip that thing right off the hinges. Come on up, I'll serve you some juice. Now, does that have a nice flavor? That's delicious, isn't it? How long does it take to clean out a juice extractor? Clean out the pulp from the extractor basket? About 10 minutes or so. Well, that's a long time every morning, isn't it? There are better things to do. This is what's left to clean out. I want you to time me. Let's find out how long it takes to clean out a Vita-Mix total juicer. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009, 1010. Nice way to clean out a juicer? That's the key to a juicer. Not simply what does the appliance do, not whether or not it will juice, but how fast and efficiently will it juice and how easy is it to clean up. Otherwise, you never use it, do you? Ice cream is next. Now, when you make ice cream, you always need 4 ingredients. The first ingredient is a liquid. You can use water, milk, fruit juice, yogurt, half and half, or cream. And the result will be sorbet, ice milk, frozen yogurt, or rich, high-calorie ice cream. Choice is yours. We're going to use cream today. And you simply add enough liquid until the little nut on top of the blades disappears. You think I'm not measuring, but that little nut tells me that that's all the liquid that you ever add. Did it disappear? Stop pouring. Now, the second ingredient is flavoring. You can use strawberries, bananas, raspberries, chocolate almond bars, peppermint sticks, almond extract, vanilla extract. This is vanilla extract. And the third ingredient is your sweetener. You can use honey if you're diabetic. You can use artificial sweeteners. I like to use honey except for when I make vanilla. Sugar is a more compatible sweetener than honey. So I think the recipe says add about a half a cup. And the fourth ingredient is something frozen. Now, I have no choice today but to use ice cubes. But at home in my freezer, I freeze milk cubes, and I freeze yogurt cubes, and I freeze half and half cubes in ice trays, and then I store these frozen cubes in plastic Ziploc bags. And when I have a 3-minute commercial break, I can run to the kitchen, make a half a gallon of ice cream, and be back before the commercial's over, okay? Now, because I've used ice, I'm going to add some powdered milk, because powdered milk and ice cubes would be the same as a frozen milk cube. Simply clamp the lid in place, turn on high speed, and we get ice cream. Now, I told you that this is a pressurized spigot. In other words, those blades will act like a pump propeller and actually dispense frozen ice cream right out that spigot. Cups out here. Consider the ice cubes as stored freezing power. And this machine releases all of that freezing power in an instant, and it permeates the other ingredients and everything freezes again. Now, make your deal. I said, how many seconds did I say I could do this in? Did I say 60 seconds? 60 seconds. Let's do this. If I can freeze a half a gallon of ice cream in less than 30 seconds, each of you agree to pay me $5. Good deal? Okay, I need a timer. When I turn the machine on, you start timing. When I yell stop, it's frozen and I'll dispense it out the spigot. Ready? Set? Go. The tamper okay, it's frozen. How long? 38 seconds. It's a good thing we didn't bet. Yes. Did you hear her question? Can you use frozen strawberries? If you use frozen strawberries, you simply do that instead of ice cubes. And of course, you have your flavoring and your frozen ingredient all in one. For example, I said it takes 4 ingredients: liquid, flavoring, sweetener, something frozen. If you want an all-natural ice cream, and you can find the right bananas on sale, 10, 15, 20 cents a pound, buy 100 pounds. Cut them into 1-inch chunks and freeze them in a plastic bag. When it's time for ice cream, simply add yogurt, half and half, or cream, and a couple handfuls of the frozen bananas. Let's see if you have 4 ingredients. You have liquid ingredient, right? You'll have a banana flavor, right? Ripe bananas are high in natural sugars, and that banana happened to be frozen. So there's your 4 ingredients. Do the same thing with strawberries, raspberries, peaches, etc. Okay, I figure by now you're probably so full of samples that you don't want ice cream. Surprise. Okay, let me serve you some ice cream. I want to sweeten that just a little bit more. Let me serve this up. Hear the machine race like there's nothing in the machine? I have an air bubble. Watch in the mirror. There we go. Did you see it drop down? Okay, come help yourself. Nice, rich vanilla flavor, isn't it? And you know what's in it. Okay, let's review. Did we make sawdust out of little wooden blocks? Okay, you never do that in your machine. It's a destruct test, but we did it. Did we make a carrot pecan cake? Did we make fresh breadcrumbs? Did we make instant coleslaw? Did we chop nuts? Did we make nut butter? Did we crush ice? Did we make cornmeal? Did we mix and knead bread dough? Did we shred cheese? Did we chop carrots? Did we grind meat? Powder sugar? Make fresh hash browns? How many attachments did we use? None, right? How many times did we have to disassemble and reassemble the container? None. How many times did we have to clean the container by hand? None. And that's the key to an appliance. Not simply what will it do, but how fast, how efficient, and how hassle-free. And that's why I highly recommend the Vita-Mix. Now you have a question. How much does it cost? A Vita-Mix doesn't cost you anything. You pay for a Vita-Mix every year whether you buy one or not. You simply pay 2 and 3 and 4 times as much for food as I do, but unfortunately you probably do not get the nutritional benefits. Okay? Now, Vita-Mix is not made with planned obsolescence in mind, or we would have made it out of glass or plastic. It's made out of stainless steel. Now the lid is plastic, okay? Very durable plastic. You watch very closely. I'm going to apply a ton of pressure. Watch. Now I don't look that tough, do I? That's from drinking Total Juice all those years. Look right here. See this little white button? If you accidentally overload a Vita-Mix machine, you won't burn it up. This is an automatic breaker switch. You'll pop off the breaker, right? To restore power, just push the little white button in. Good engineering, isn't it? And that's because we have your interest at heart, and that's why we give it a 5-year guarantee. It also comes with a brand new cookbook, 208 pages, 480 recipes, step-by-step instructions, just like I've taught you here. And there are some great recipes. There are 100 recipes in this book that cannot be made in other appliances because it requires Vita-Mix versatility to make them. Are there any more questions from the audience? Okay, right here.
I've never seen a Vita-Mix in a department store. Why is that?
Well, if we just set this appliance on a shelf and we told people, we had a little sign right here that says it mixes and kneads bread dough, it grinds grains into flour and cereal, it grinds meat, it shreds cheese, it chops salads, it crushes ice, it makes powdered sugar, all done without any attachments. And when you're finished, it cleans itself out. How believable do you think we would be in a department store? No. And so, don't you agree that you really have to see it demonstrated to believe that it really does all of these things very fast and very efficiently? Okay. Well, thanks for your attendance and participation tonight. And if you want to mill around and talk to any of us, we'll be here. Okay.
In the next segment of this cookbook video, you will see easy-to-follow, step-by-step instructions how to make nearly 24 mouth-watering recipes. These recipes were selected to teach you all the various food processes which can be performed in a Vita-Mix. We are 100% confident that Vita-Mix's speed and versatility will enable you to make delicious foods and treats in your own kitchen, faster and more nutritious than you can buy at supermarkets and fast food restaurants. Enjoy.
This is the recipe cookbook part of our demonstration. And before we get into the actual recipes, I would like to review with you some of the engineering features of a Vita-Mix. This is a tamper stick. The cross piece prevents the tamper from descending into the blades and grinding up your tamper. The lid is a two-part lid. Made out of Lexan, a half-inch thickness of Lexan will stop a 45 caliber bullet. This is the proper assembly. The conical shape goes on top. Some people get it together backwards. Then they clamp the lid on. As they use the machine, the vibration of the machine dislodges the centerpiece. We call that powdered Lexan, okay? That's a no-no. This is the proper way to assemble the lid. Notice when you remove the centerpiece, you have a pour spout. Never, ever use the tamper without the centerpiece, or else the tamper will descend further into the container than it should, and we call that sawdust, okay? And you shall have a shorter tamper. The container is made out of stainless steel. Some people want to know why we didn't make the container out of the same durable see-through Lexan. When we grind grain in a Lexan container, it turns the container cloudy and you can't see through it anyway. So we made it out of stainless steel and we don't regret that. Now we have a pressurized spigot. When you turn the machine on, the blades act just like a pump propeller and pressurize that spigot so that you can dispense juice, soup, even frozen ice cream through the spigot. We have a speed control dial on my left. To my extreme right is the lowest speed setting, and each notch over increases the velocity of the machine. To the extreme left is the highest speed setting on a Vita-Mix. This lever right here controls the blades. We have patented blade reversal in a Vita-Mix. And when the lever is in the up position, the blades run forward. In the center position, the machine is off, and in the down position, the blades run reverse. In the down position, that switch is spring-loaded. As soon as you release it, it automatically switches off, okay? The blades themselves are not sharp, they're flat. We do not slice ingredients in a Vita-Mix. They're called hammer mill blades, and they're flat because we simply crush the ingredients. Now, if you watch in the mirror, I'm going to show you our patented blade reversal. Blades go forward, reverse, forward, reverse. Now watch it at slow speed, because later on when we show you some recipes, this will be our chopping technique. And we will reverse those blades very rapidly and cause them to oscillate. Now at this point, people want to know how we can reverse those blades and not tear up the gears. Simply, there are no gears in a Vita-Mix. You understand magnets. Like poles repel, opposite poles attract. So this lever simply reverses the polarity of the motor, and the blades go instantly in the opposite direction. Now, one other comment. A lot of people look at this machine and they think they're looking at a blender, and they want to know how it differs from a blender. Let me say a couple of things. Number one, when you turn a blender on, the blade just simply play merry-go-round with the ingredients. Just like cars traveling down the freeway in the same lane of traffic, there's no damage. Get a car in the wrong lane of traffic and have a head-on collision, and it's a whole different story. And that's exactly what happens in a Vita-Mix. When we reverse those blades, the ingredients collide in the opposite direction with the blades, and we have a head-on collision, and that impact is 1,000 times greater than what you can create inside of a blender. The other way this differs from a blender is, in the course of the demonstration, you will see us grind grain, mix and knead bread dough, freeze ice cream, shred cheese, grind meat, cook, and juice. And you've never seen any blender do any of those things. That's the difference. This machine does it, and a blender won't. One other thing I want to show you. We did not make a Vita-Mix with planned obsolescence in mind, or we would have made it out of glass or plastic. This is guaranteed for 5 years. You can't burn up the motor. If you accidentally overload the motor, we have installed an automatic breaker switch, and it'll pop just like that, and your motor will be safe. To restore power, simply push the right button in, and you restore your power to the Vita-Mix. In the meantime, you haven't done any damage to your motor. What we want to show you now is bread making, and today in our viewing audience we have a young lady whose name is Marty, and I'm going to let Marty introduce herself. Welcome to our video cookbook.
Thank you very much. My name is Marty, and I'm a housewife from Cleveland, Ohio, and I have 2 beautiful children.
Very good. Do you have any bread making experience?
No, I did make bread once, but the old-fashioned way.
Okay. Today we're going to make bread. We won't touch the dough with our hands until we eat it. From start to finish, we won't touch the dough with our hands. And I'm just going to kind of coach her through this, and you in the viewing audience can do precisely what I teach her to do, and you should get exactly the same results. So Marty, let's begin by measuring 2 cups of wheat, and I want you to know that this recipe is in your new Vita-Mix cookbook. A little bit more, a little bit more.
A little more?
A little more. There you go. Okay. And then clamp the action dome lid in place. Very good.
Let's go up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now when you grind grains into flour or cereal, you turn the speed dial to high, and you simply flip the red lever to the up forward position.
Is this on high already? Is it on high?
It's on high. Now, while the machine grinds the wheat into flour, we're going to pre-measure some of our other ingredients. But before we do that, I want you to know the advantages of making whole wheat bread. It has over 36 vitamins and minerals. It's called the staff of life. But wheat is very fragile. Once you crush it, within 24 hours it starts to spoil and go rancid and can lose up to 40% of its food value. So that's why you need your own grain grinder, so that you can grind the wheat fresh and use it immediately. Now, while that's grinding, Marty, why don't you add a teaspoon of salt?
Salt?
Now, if you're on a low-sodium diet, you can leave the salt out. Not essential to make good bread. We add it for taste only.
Right in?
Just add it right in. Very good. And now we'll pre-measure our liquid ingredients. She already has a 1.5 cups of cold water. Now, we use cold water when we grind our wheat in the Vita-Mix because the wheat will get hot. And if you add warm water, the way you traditionally do when you make bread, the flour will be too hot and it might damage your yeast. So by adding cold water to the hot flour, the resulting temperature is ideal for activating the yeast. Now why don't we add a tablespoon of oil to the already measured water. Now oil is an optional ingredient when you're making bread, or you're making whole wheat bread, because the whole wheat already contains the wheat germ oil, which is one of the best sources of vitamin E that we know about.
How's that?
That's very good, very good. And add now a tablespoon of honey. Honey is also an optional ingredient because whole wheat has naturally occurring sugar sufficient to feed the yeast. So the nice thing about owning your own Vita-Mix is if you want to watch your fat intake, you can leave the oil out. If you want to watch your sugar intake, you can leave the sugar out. You can make bread that a diabetic, for example, can eat. Now, this has to run about 4 minutes. The longer you run a Vita-Mix when you're grinding grain, the finer the flour becomes. If you're making a pastry flour, you want to run about 5 minutes. If you're making a cracked grain syrup, you want to run about 10 or 15 seconds.
You can make any type of bread in here?
You can make any type of bread. This is 100% whole wheat, but we have recipes where you can make it half whole wheat, half white flour. You can add 15% barley. You can grind corn. Okay, you make cornbread. Any kind of grains or any kind of bread that you like. Okay, including cinnamon rolls or muffins, or pancakes or waffles.
Getting hungry.
Okay, let's turn it off, Marty. Okay, take the action dome lid off. And add your liquid ingredients. Cold water, honey, and oil. And then we'll add a tablespoon of yeast, which is equivalent to a package of yeast.
The whole package?
Yeah, now some of the ingredients that I mentioned earlier are optional. Yeast is not. I tried it once, it didn't work. Okay. Now the machine does the mixing, so let's simply clamp the action dome lid back in place. Okay. Leave it on high speed, and we're going to flip the red lever to the up position and all the way to the reverse position. We're going to do that about 2 times, and that blade reversal will mix all of our ingredients.
Up and then
Up, down, up, down. Okay, turn it off. Now take the lid off, Marty. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pour a 2-cup measure of water, because periodically we'll be dipping the spatula in the cup of water to prevent the dough from sticking to the spatula. And Marty is going to take that spatula and she's going to go down the sides of the container all the way into the corners down here, just to make sure that there are no dry flour pockets. So just scrape all the way to the bottom. Very good.
Oh, this is easy.
Very good. Okay. Now to knead it. The red lever in the down position is spring-loaded. As soon as you release it, it automatically turns off. So she's going to tap that red lever with the end of her fist. We call that a tap-release technique. And so why don't you tap on that red lever about 6 or 7 times, Marty? Okay, stop. Now take your spatula and compress the dough. Just jab it about 4 times right in the center, and compress the dough back down into the path of the hammer, so that when we repeat the kneading technique, those blades will twist and stretch and knead the dough. Okay, go ahead. Tap it again. Okay. Punch it back down with your spatula. Now, of course, kneading is important because kneading twists and stretches the dough, and it texturizes the gluten, and the gluten is what sticks all the bread together. Otherwise, you end up with a crumbly loaf of bread. Okay? So knead it again. If you'd like to add additional ingredients, such as dates, nuts, raisins, alfalfa sprouts, or wheat sprouts, now's the time to do that. So why don't you guesstimate, Marty, a half a cup of raisins and just add them right in on top. Is that how you measure at home?
Oh, it's a lot worse at
Okay,
home.
very good.
That good?
Very good. And just press them down into the dough with your spatula a little bit. And then as we continue to knead, the kneading will work those raisins into the bread dough. Okay, go ahead and knead it again. Now, if you're watching closely, you'll see, just continue, and I'll just keep talking here. Eventually, that dough will kind of form a ball, like a ball on a seal's nose. And you can tell good bread before you ever bake it, because it should have a soft, stretchy, spongy texture. Which brings up a good point. Let's say, Marty, that the dough was too dry. We didn't get enough moisture in, or for whatever reason the dough is dry. We can correct that problem by simply adding more water, a tablespoon at a time, and punching and kneading it until we get a nice, stretchy, spongy dough. Now, the flip side of that problem, Marty, is you might get it too wet. Maybe there was a very humid day, and maybe there was moisture already in the wheat, and it might be too wet. And the way you correct that problem is simply add a tablespoon of flour at a time, or some powdered milk, or some oatmeal, something to absorb that additional moisture.
How do I know when this is done?
Okay, tap it one more time and let's see what it does. Okay, now take your spatula. Let me feel that dough, okay? Okay, see how nice and spongy that is? Mm-hmm. When you push on it, it kind of springs back at you. So that's done. Now what we want to do is she's going to knead that one more time, and the dough will jump up on top of the blades, and then I'm very quickly going to turn the container upside down over the bread pan. Okay. And just turn the container directly upside down over your bread pan. Now you can turn the coupling right here. That will rotate the blades inside and help to dislodge some of that dough. But the beautiful part about making bread in a Vita-Mix is you don't want to clean that by hand, do you? Mm-mm. I know me. If I had to clean it by hand, we wouldn't be making bread right now. Why don't you fill this container about to this level with some soapy water there, Marty? And set it on the motor base and clamp your lid in place. And she's going to turn the machine on now at high speed, and this machine becomes its own dishwasher, if you will. That water will circulate. Go ahead. The water will circulate now at 265 miles an hour. Now, Marty, the chances are you've trapped some wheat in the spigot. So if you'll pour some of this water in the top. Okay. Now hold it under the spigot, and you open up the spigot, and the blade will course, flush that spigot clean. Now, if you want to make sure that this machine comes clean, remember we have blade reversal. And when you reverse those blades, you create a 530-mile-an-hour agitation. So why don't you just reverse it a couple of times? What you want to do is you want to let this bread rise nearly double in size, okay? I'm going to set it on top of a hot oven. Now what we've done for your benefit is, if you look inside the oven, you'll see a loaf of bread that we made earlier. So when we put it in the oven, it'll come almost to the top of the bread dish. And of course, when it's finished baking, it'll rise above the edges about 1 to 2 inches. Let's rinse that out now, Marty, and see how we did. See, there are lots of appliances that will make bread. Go ahead, just rinse it in the rinse water right there in the sink. But sometimes there's so much hassle by the time you're finished. Can you get the soap out? Okay.
It's clean.
Okay, let's show our viewing audience. Is that a nice way to clean out a bread maker? Now that's the key to an appliance. Not simply what will it do, but how fast and efficiently and how easy does it clean up afterwards. Well, Marty, what do you think about your first bread making experience with a Vita-Mix?
It was very good, thank you. It's a lot easier than doing it the old-fashioned way.
Okay. Maybe we can have some later on. Okay. I thank you for being on our program.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye now. Okay, it's been about 40 minutes now. We've brought Marty back up out of our audience, and we want to see how she did with her first loaf of bread. Looks pretty good so far, Marty.
It smells good.
Okay, why don't you cut a little slice off the end there, and let's see how we did.
See how hot this is. It's too hot to hold.
Hot. Let me hold
it.
Okay, looks nice. We'll have to let it cool down a little bit, put some butter on it, and sorry we can't share some of this with you in the audience. Your option is, of course, get your Vita-Mix out and make your own loaf of bread, right? So now what we want to do is we want to teach you how to dry chop carrots. And what I'm going to show you is on page 11 of the Versatile Vita-Mix Cookbook. Now notice that we've taken carrots and we've cut them into about 1-inch chunks. Simply add them to the Vita-Mix container, clamp the fully assembled lid in place, and turn the dial all the way to high speed, because it's possible that those carrots will stall the blades. And then flip the red lever up. Then turn the speed to low and reverse the blades rapidly. And this forward-reverse action causes the carrots to collide in the opposite direction with the blades, and you get chopped carrots. Okay, there's your chopped carrots. What I want to do right now is introduce a young lady who is going to help me with the rest of the video cookbook. Her name is Rose Ride. She's the author of 2 cookbooks, including the Versatile Vita-Mix Cookbook. She's the mother of 5 lovely daughters, and I happen to be her husband.
I have to admit that when Wayne and I were first married, he had a Vita-Mix, and for a number of years I didn't bother to learn to use it. The reason being, I felt that I had one of the company's best salesmen in the home, and so that was just one thing that I could get him to do to help me out. And so for a number of years I didn't learn to use the Vita-Mix, at least in his presence. Now when he wasn't in the house, I would use it if I needed it. However, writing the Vita-Mix cookbook was a tremendous experience for me, a great time of growth, and I learned to appreciate this machine in a way that I never had before. And I think with some of the things that we're able to teach you, that you too will learn that this is a tremendous machine to have. One of the first things I'd like to teach you today is how to make powdered sugar. With 5 daughters, you can imagine that occasionally a birthday slips up on me, and I don't have powdered sugar in the house. Well, that has never been a problem because making powdered sugar in the Vita-Mix is a breeze. Let me show you how we do it. It's in the recipe book. We take 2 cups of granulated sugar, and then the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Now we add this just to keep the powdered sugar light and fluffy. The next step is to clamp the lid in place and then turn the speed dial to high. Now what I'm going to do is lift the red lever up to the on position for about 60 seconds. You'll find that after about 3 or 4 seconds, the powdered sugar begins to drift out of the top of the container. That shouldn't be a problem, though. Just either slip your hand over the top, or if you have a fruit bowl close by, you can take a lemon or an orange or an apple and set it over the top. We'll let this go for about 60 seconds, and then we'll see what the powdered sugar looks like. Let's see if we've got powdered sugar. Yes, I think so. Now I'd like to teach you a little tip about removing the powdered sugar from the container. We've trapped about a tablespoon of granulated sugar in the spigot, and you don't want that to mix in with the rest of the powdered sugar. So this is what you do. Simply keep the spigot toward the countertop and pour the powdered sugar out. That way the granulated sugar stays trapped in the spigot and it won't go in with the other powdered sugar. How's that? Now you can decorate a cake and you won't have to run to the store to get powdered sugar to do it. I'm going to show you how to make breadcrumbs. About Thanksgiving time, we start thinking about stuffing. This is what happened with that little footprint. To make breadcrumbs, you need to wad about 3 slices of bread into a ball and drop it in the Vita-Mix. Clamp the lid in place. Turn the black speed control knob to high. We're going to reverse the blades at 2-second intervals. Up for 2 seconds, down to reverse for 2 seconds, and then up again for 2 seconds. It's very quick. Watch. Let's see if we've got breadcrumbs. We sure do. Now, in addition to making stuffing, there's another application which is probably used year-round for most of you, and that's breading meats, chicken, poultry, vegetables, or fish. I've got some pork chops here today, and I've already seasoned them. The reason being, when you put breading on pork chops or any other item, you need to season that item first. You dredge it first in flour. Now we'll let that set while I put together an egg wash. An egg wash is made with 1/4 cup of milk and 2 eggs. The ratio there is always 2 to 1. Now I'm whisking this up with a fork. The reason being, the total volume of this is only 3/4 of a cup, and it's not enough to fit up under the blades of the Vita-Mix. And the blades therefore cannot grab it and whip it together. So it goes, you dredge first in the flour, then in the egg wash, and now dip it in your breadcrumbs. You can season your breadcrumbs beforehand, or you can season it once it's in the pan. So this is ready to go. Fry it up and enjoy it. One of our favorite drinks is emerald champagne. It's a year-round favorite. The recipe calls for 2 cups of ice and 2 cups of unsweetened pineapple juice. Clamp the lid in place, and we turn the Vita-Mix on high speed for about 60 seconds. Now you add the celery right down through the action dome while the machine runs. Delicious. Remember, this can't even be done in a blender because the tough celery strings will wrap around the blades and stall the motor. You have to have a Vita-Mix to make emerald champagne.
Okay, now we'd like to show you how to make Southern-style hash browns. And because we leave the peeling on, they're actually faster to make, and they'll be about twice as nutritious as hash browns that you can buy in a store. And if you look what we've done, we've simply cut potatoes into about 1.5-inch chunks. Now we're going to fill the container with liquid, and the liquid becomes a vehicle, and it circulates the potatoes down through the blades when we turn the machine on. Now if you're doing a 1/2 container of potatoes, and use a half a container of liquid. Clamp the fully assembled lid in place and turn the speed dial to high speed, all the way to high speed. Now this is a forward-reverse technique. We're going to flip the red lever all the way up and all the way down at about 2-second intervals. Now this is fast. We're only going to do this about 2 or 3 seconds. And if you go much longer than that, you're not going to have hash browns, okay? You're going to have to drink your hash browns. Ready? Okay, now I have a colander over here. We're simply going to pour these into the colander. Now, I don't know if you've ever made fresh hash browns before, but because the potatoes have so much starch, they tend to be a little gummy. So what you want to do at this point is just run cold water on the hash browns. Having done that, then you pour them into a heated skillet, and they fry up real nice in about 10 minutes. If you need snowballs in July, or you're making lots of Slurpees or mixed drinks, this is a great ice crusher. Now I'm using ice that I got out of a bag. You can use square ice cubes that come out of an ice tray, or ice cubes that come out of your ice maker, doesn't matter. And then add liquid, and the liquid once again becomes the vehicle to circulate the ingredients down through the blades. This technique is the exact same technique we showed you earlier when we made hash browns. The only difference is instead of potatoes in the container, we now have ice. Okay, clamp your fully assembled lid on top of the container. Turn the speed dial to high speed and reverse the machine at 2-second intervals. Forward, reverse, forward, reverse. And you now have a half a gallon of crushed ice, or if you like, snowballs. Now I'm going to teach you how to make my children's most favorite recipe. It's the exact same thing we did earlier, but instead of crushing ice, we're going to be making Slurpees. This time, instead of adding water, what I have here is some concentrated grape juice. You can use any kind of juice, you can use punch, any kind of flavoring you like. And I'm also adding 1/4 cup of sugar. This is optional to you. If you want to leave the sugar out, that's certainly your prerogative. Now add just a little bit more water so that we have enough liquid to circulate the ice. And clamp the fully assembled lid on top of the container. Turn the speed dial all the way to high, and we're going to reverse the machine at 2-second intervals. Now the spigot I mentioned earlier is pressurized. You simply open up the spigot, and you can serve up a Slurpee. Now, my children make their own popsicles. They just fill up 2- and 3-ounce cups, and when they're finished, they take plastic spoons and they stick in the Slurpee, and then they put them inside the freezer. You open up the door on my freezer, and it's lined with all of these all-natural popsicles that my own children have made. Cheers.
You can mix batters in the Vita-Mix, and today we're going to do quick plain cake. The recipe calls for 3/4 cup water. This is 2 teaspoons of grated lemon peel. You can use just 2 1-inch cubes of lemon peel if you want. 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. Okay, let's go on with 2 eggs and 1 1/4 cups of sugar. Now clamp the action dome in place And this is mixed on medium speed. We'll lift the red impact lever up for about 10 seconds, but what we want is our batter to be light and fluffy. Okay, now it's time to add the dry ingredients. This is a tablespoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, and we'll finish up with white flour. I have 2 1/4 cups. Now we have other recipes in the cookbook that call for whole wheat flour and honey, so depending on your dietary needs, the machine can handle it. Now with the spatula, we just want to begin to incorporate that dough together. Clamp the lid on. Now we turn the speed to low and lift the red lever up for about 5 seconds. We're just going to moisten the dry ingredients. Okay, that's done. You just watch down through the action dome while it's mixing. We just pour it in our greased and floured baking dish. And this cooks for 30 to 35 minutes at 350 degrees. The Vita-Mix can also whip cream. We do recommend that you chill your container in the freezer for about 5 minutes before you try to do whipped cream. We have 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. Pour it right down in. Then clamp the lid in place, and we do this on low speed. It usually takes about 10 to 15 seconds. Looks like we're about there. We add a teaspoon of vanilla and 2 tablespoons of sugar. Clamp the lid back on, and now we just tap release to mix that sugar and vanilla in. That's all there is to it. You can use it as a topping for your favorite dessert. I've got it here on cherry pie today. One of the nicest things about owning a Vita-Mix is making your own fresh fruit syrup. You can make apricot, black cherry, blueberry, kiwi syrup, raspberry, strawberry, banana, whatever you'd like to make. Today we're making strawberry syrup. I'm starting with 3 cups of strawberries. Now these are from the freezer, so we microwaved them just to speed up the cooking process. The recipe also calls for 2 cups of sugar. Now you don't need that much sugar. You can cut way back on it if you like. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes if you start with room temperature fruit. We probably will be able to do this in 2 or 3 minutes because we're starting with hot fruit. High speed, up position on the impact lever. It's been about 3 or 4 minutes. Let's see if the syrup's done. You can usually tell when syrup's done because the sound within the container changes and the syrup doesn't slosh around quite as much as it did before. This smells wonderful. I wish you could smell it, but tasting it's going to be even better. Now watch that container because it's hot, and make sure you have lots of guests on hand because they'll really rave about this one.
Now what I'd like to teach you is how to make peanut butter. If you go to a store and you buy peanut butter and it does not have a layer of oil on top, it's not natural peanut butter. Read the label. It's peanut-flavored margarine. It has peanuts, hydrogenated vegetable oil, salt, and dextrose. I'm going to show you today how to chop nuts, and from chopped nuts we'll go right into peanut butter. And what I have some unsalted peanuts. You can use salted peanuts, unsalted. You can use roasted or raw. It's up to you. Just add the peanuts to the container. First we're going to chop them, and we're going to go to high speed, and we're going to reverse the red lever. Let me restate that. We are going to reverse the blades by throwing the red lever up, then all the way down at 2-second intervals. Watch it in the mirror. Now there's a few peanuts right on top. Just take a spatula and scrape the peanuts on top down into that hole right there, and then continue the chopping process. Okay, we just chopped 3 cans of peanuts that fast. Now I want to show you what they look like. You can sprinkle those on a Danish dessert, on cookies, put them in cakes, on top of ice cream, etc. Now what we would like to do is I'm going to clamp the fully assembled lid on place. This is important because to make peanut butter requires the use of the tamper. We're going to tamp the peanuts down into the path of the hammer, and the hammer will impact these peanuts and puree them, change them to kind of a fluid liquid consistency. Okay, here we go. High speed, red lever, up. Can you hear that chugging sound? Now you can make any kind of peanut butter you want. You can make a chunky style peanut butter, or you can make a creamy style peanut butter. It simply depends upon how long you run the machine. Okay, what we have now is a chunky style, and you can see that. It's got little chunks in it. If you like chunky style, stop. If you like a creamy style, continue to run the machine longer. Okay, we now have our creamy style, and I'm just going to put an empty peanut can right there, and then we will pour this into the container. Now can you see how creamy that is? And that's pure natural peanut butter. We make juice that includes all of the nutritious pulp and fiber, whereas a juice extractor separates the juice and the pulp. We drink the juice, but we throw away the nutritious fiber. In the instance of a lemon, for example, if you can use the entire lemon, you get 4 times as much vitamin C as if you were to run this through a juice extractor. Just add it to the Vita-Mix. In the instance of an orange, oranges are picked green and dyed orange, and so this dye is somewhat bitter. You want to remove just the dye portion of the peeling. Leave the white part. That contains 2/3 of the vitamin C, including the bioflavonoids. And that's a rule of thumb. Anytime you're using fruit or vegetables, remove any bitter parts, or else it'll make the juice bitter. Nowadays, you pay about $1 a pound for produce. If you run produce through a juice extractor, we drink this half, but this half gets thrown in the garbage can. This half, okay, goes in the Vita-Mix, and therefore you get twice as much juice for the same dollar compared to a juice extractor. In the instance of an apple, I quarter the apple. If people are watching, remove the stem, and I take a little peek inside just to make sure that there are no little wiggly proteins, okay? Add the apple. And now banana. Now the interesting thing about adding a banana to a Vita-Mix is in a Vita-Mix we can make juice out of it. But you can't squeeze the juice out of a banana. So if you put a banana in a juice extractor, it clogs up the little extractor holes. And then I have a couple of slices of fresh pineapple. Now at this point, just clamp the fully assembled lid in place, turn the dial to high speed, and simply flip the red lever up. And those fruits need a little help. So tamp them down into the path of the hammer. This takes a minute. Now I'm going to open up the spigot and dispense just a little bit out the spigot. Now did you notice how thick that was? Technically that's not juice. That's baby food, that's fruit sauce, that's juice concentrate. Now what do you do when you buy juice concentrate in the supermarket? You dilute it, don't you? So let's add this back through the top of the dome lid, And we'll dilute that with some ice and a little bit of water. The ice simply cools it off real fast so that you can have cold juice. And then the water dilutes it to a nice juice consistency. Now, when you do this, you sample some of that juice, it's still a little thick, then you know you simply haven't diluted it sufficiently. Okay, high speed, flip the red lever up. Now at this point, I'm going to sweeten that with a little bit of honey. You can use sugar, or you can use an artificial sweetener. These two run about 60 seconds. This makes a half a gallon of total juice. Let's taste test that. Now it's only fair that I get the first sample. Now if you could make a half a gallon of juice in a matter of just a couple of minutes, your family would drink fresh fruit juice more frequently, and made in the Vita-Mix, of course, it'll be 2, 3, and 4 times more nutritious.
You can shred cheese in your Vita-Mix. You can do hard cheeses, and they can come straight from the refrigerator, cut in 1-inch tubes. Today we're doing mozzarella. We have this in about 1.5-inch cubes, and it's almost 2 cups. Pour it down in on the Vita-Mix, clamp your lid in place, and turn the speed dial to high. We'll reverse the blades at about 1 or 2 second intervals. That's fast. That's faster than you can get the old-fashioned grater out. Now I've got a quick fix pizza here. We've got pizza sauce on a sliced Italian roll. Topped it with some pepperoni, olives, and a little bit of green pepper. You just sprinkle the cheese on top and set it under the broiler for about 2 or 3 minutes. Be sure to watch real closely so you don't scorch it. There you go. You can grind any kind of meat in the Vita-Mix. Today I'm going to do hamburger. I have 1.5-inch chunks of beef cubes here. Drop them down in and put enough in to cover the blades. You grind it on high speed for 3 seconds, and we reverse the blades at 2-second intervals. Okay, you can shape this into a hamburger and fry it up. Next, I want to make a ham spread. It's good for parties or just lunchtime. The recipe calls for 1/4 cup of mayonnaise. This is 2 tablespoons of pickle vinegar. We have beef chunks, ham chunks cut in 1-inch cubes. 2 teaspoons of prepared mustard. Paprika, it's a 1/2 teaspoon. And we put a tablespoon of onions right down in on top. Notice all the ingredients go in together. Clamp the lid in place, and we use low speed for this process, and we simply tap release the red lever until it's well blended. Partway through this process and stir it up with a spatula to make sure all of those ingredients work down in around the blades. Okay, that looks done. I like to serve it up on a croissant. Notice how we've got chopped meat and all the ingredients blended at the same time. There, now doesn't that look appetizing?
Today we have from our viewing audience a fellow by the name of Eli. Welcome to our video cookbook, Eli.
How you doing, Wayne?
Good, thanks. You like ice cream?
I love ice cream. I was born with one.
You were born with ice cream. That's great. I want to teach you quickly that there are 4 steps to making ice cream. Now, when I say ice cream, I'm also referring to fruit sorbet, ice milk, or frozen yogurt. But the 4 ingredients are, first, you need a liquid. If you want fruit sorbet, start with fruit juice. If you want ice milk, start with milk. If you want nice, rich, creamy ice cream, use cream. And if you want frozen yogurt, simply use yogurt as your liquid base. So why don't we do that, Ellie? Why don't we pour in 1.5 cups of yogurt?
Okay, this is my yogurt. It's 1.5 cups.
And just pour it right down in top of the container. You may want to use a spatula to scrape it all out of there.
Okay.
Do you cook at home, Eli?
Never.
Never.
I only cook when I have
Well,
to.
I've made this dozens and dozens, hundreds of times. If it doesn't work, I'll know who to blame it on.
At least you can blame it on me, I guess, today. Okay.
Now, the second ingredient that you need is a flavoring. You can use strawberries, raspberries, peaches, chocolate almond bars, bubble gum, peppermint sticks, almond extract, vanilla extract. The choice is yours. Today, we are going to use strawberries. So, Eli, why don't you take some of those cube strawberries and fill the container to about right here. And while he does that, I'm going to continue here with the recipe. The third thing that you need is a sweetener. You can use sugar, you can use honey, you can use artificial sweetener. Really ripe fruits have lots of natural sugar in them. And we're not going to add any sugar to this because these strawberries, okay, we just took a frozen container of strawberries and cut them into about 1.5 inch cubes. And so they're frozen and they have the strawberry flavor in them, and they also contain our sweetener. And the fourth ingredient is something frozen. You can use ice cubes. You can take frozen strawberries, frozen peaches, frozen raspberries, any kind of frozen fruit. I like to take milk and pour it into an ice tray and freeze it in the refrigerator, and then I just store it in a plastic bag. Or you can pour yogurt into an ice tray and freeze it and store yogurt cubes in the plastic bag. So we give you lots of options, and it depends upon how many calories you want to consume and what flavor you want, and whether you want ice cream or sorbet or frozen yogurt. I think we're ready, Eli. Why don't you clamp the lid in place?
You go up, down,
Yeah.
like this.
There you go. Very good. And turn this black speed dial to our extreme left. That's high speed. Okay, now push the red lever down and hold it down. Hold it down. Okay, pull it all the way up. Push it all the way down. Pull it up. Push it back down. Pull it up. Okay, let it run, let it run. Okay, why don't you dispense some ice cream for us? Okay, stop. There's one for you. How about one for me? Okay, stop. Now, if you want to make it more frozen, you simply add more frozen ingredients. So, Eli, why don't you add about 5 or 6 more of those? That should do it. Okay, now dispense some more. Okay, stop. The more frozen ingredients you add, the more frozen it becomes. Okay, thank you. One for you.
Right. It's going to be very tasty, I guess, huh?
What do you think?
Great.
Now, this has a really intense strawberry flavor. Have you ever tasted strawberry ice cream from a store with this much flavor?
Yes, I did.
Did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay, turn it off. Nice thing about making ice cream in a Vita-Mix is you can have some really intense flavors, and this is a delicious, rich strawberry flavor.
It's great.
Now, I might add, all ice cream is made to the soft serve stage and then is dispensed into containers and frozen. In our new Vita-Mix recipe book, we teach you how to make hard ice cream. You simply dispense it into a container, put it in the freezer, and an hour later, you stir it gently with a big spoon. And then an hour later, stir it one more time, and then the ice cream will remain scoopable. And unlike commercial ice cream, you won't have any additives, no emulsifiers, and you won't have any air in it, okay? So this is the real stuff, Eli.
Yes, it is. Yes.
You think you could do this at home?
Well, I need to try it one more time.
Okay. Thank you.
In the Vita-Mix video recipe book, we've only been able to give you a small sampling of recipes and foods that you can prepare in the Vita-Mix. So I want to take a moment and show you our versatile Vita-Mix cookbook. It has over 400 recipes. It's 208 pages long. I'm going to flip quickly to the table of contents and review some of the chapters we have there with you. We have a section called Appetizers, Dips, and Spreads, and in there you'll be sure to find a recipe for cheese balls. We have baby foods, beverages, party drinks, and hot drinks. And even in the hot drinks section, you'll find a couple recipes for hot chocolate mix. We've divided our bread section into 3 parts: batter breads, quick breads, and yeast breads. There's an oat bran muffin recipe in there, pizza dough, bagels. You can even make your own pasta using the Vita-Mix. We have a wide assortment of cakes and frostings. And in the cereal section, we have a page that has instructions for a wide variety of cereals. We have cookies and bar cookies, desserts, fruit whips, and you can even make gelatin in just 2 or 3 minutes in the Vita-Mix. We have a nice assortment of entrees, but I think most people's favorite section is the ice cream section. In there, we even teach you how to make juice bars. And be sure to notice the part on how to make hard ice cream. We tell you how to make yogurt and frozen yogurt. There are puddings and fondues, pies, sauces, and salad dressing. But I think our favorite section in the recipe book is secret recipes. In there, you'll learn how to make sweetened condensed milk, taco seasoning, low salt seasoning mix. There are many gourmet butters, and for the kids, we even have Play-Doh, finger paint, and paste. We have one recipe called Desperado dressing. I think you're already familiar with that one. It's made with mayonnaise and ketchup. We have Russian dressing, Swedish glögg. There's French vanilla shake. We have one recipe called Bahama Mama and another one called Mango Tango. We haven't forgotten the animal kingdom, though. We do have a recipe called Lion's Milk, another recipe called Tiger Ears, and one called Elephant Stew. The book is unique in that it brings you over 100 recipes for items that you can't make in any other appliance. You'll find new flavors, new textures, and especially new eating enjoyment. So whether your concern is for your family's health needs or for just to make party foods and entertaining more exciting, I'm sure you'll be able to find the recipes you need in the new versatile Vita-Mix cookbook.
Nestled away in a wooded suburb of Cleveland, Ohio, are the home office and production facilities of the Vita-Mix Corporation. Not only are they the inventors of some very unique products, their innovative marketing techniques have won them special recognition in the Hall of Fame of the Direct Marketing Association. Let's take a historical tour of this 4th-generation family-owned business whose roots date back to 1921. But let's begin with a visit to their present-day reception offices.
Good afternoon, Vita-Mix Corporation.
This man, William Barnard, affectionately known as Papa Barnard, was the founder of the Vita-Mix Corporation and has the distinction of recording the nation's first live 1/2-hour TV commercial. Later on, You'll get a feel for Papa's dynamic sales ability when we show you actual footage from his now 30-year-old commercial. Papa's sales training and marketing savvy begins in 1921. He traveled to various fairs and trade shows, doing live sales demonstrations of the Poly can opener, one of the first to open a can without leaving jagged edges. In 1934, Papa and his son Bill Barnard were exhibitors at the Chicago World's Fair. In 1936 and 1937, they presented thousands of product demonstrations at the Great Lakes Exposition in Cleveland, Ohio, then known as the Crossroads to the Nation. It was at this time that they established themselves in Cleveland and shortly thereafter opened the Natural Food Institute. Papa became widely known for his magazine articles and speeches pertaining to good health. During the 1940s, Papa and Bill Barnard expanded the Natural Food Institute into a national mail order business. Their continual quest for new and better products paid off in 1943. They came upon the forerunner of our modern blender. At the time, this appliance was virtually unknown to the American public. But Papa and Bill quickly changed that. First, they gave it the name of Vita-Mix, and armed with their product demonstration skills, introduced it in hundreds of fairs and expositions across the nation. 1949 marked an historic year. TVs were the latest contraptions. Television was a struggling new media, but a media which appealed to Bill Barnard's marketing instincts. Bill's first efforts to persuade Papa Barnard to tell the Vita-Mix story on live TV met with strong opposition. Let's hear the story from Bill Barnard himself.
Let me go down to this WEWS here in Cleveland and book you a 30-minute space, time, and you give them the demonstration of the Vita-Mix. And instead of having 10 people in front of you, you may have several thousand people in front of you. Papa says, oh no, no sir, I won't do that. And he insisted, and he insisted, and he insisted. And I insisted, and I insisted, and I insisted. And finally, he says, well, all right, I'll go down there. So he did. He got up and demonstrated the Vita-Mix machine. And before he got done, about half done, the phone started ringing. And they started coming in with the orders for the Vita-Mix machine.
Here are some clips of this trend-setting event.
Ladies and gentlemen, in presenting Home Miracles for 1950, I'm going to give you a demonstration of one of the most wonderful machines that was ever invented, the Vita-Mix machine, and I'm going to talk to you on the most vital subject that concerns you and your family, and that is health. With health, we have wealth. We're the richest person on earth. I'm going to put in, ladies and gentlemen, the finest fruit. Oh, how the God of heaven loved America when he placed in our soil the elements that grow the old apple tree. He places the pectin in the peel. He places the laxative in the peel. The hand of God. He takes the paintbrush of old Mother Nature, and for 5 months he labors, building the most healthful fruit, the most beautiful fruit, painting every apple on that tree. Oh, what a wonderful artist. But it falls in the hand of a woman with a paring knife. And she says, God doesn't know how to make apples. I do.
While Papa demonstrated, Bill sat by the telephone. Halfway through Papa's demonstrations, Bill's phone began to ring and didn't stop until nearly 4:30 a.m., only to begin again at 6 a.m. That single commercial produced over 400 sales of Vita-Mix blenders. It eventually aired on 61 TV stations coast to coast. The decade of the 60s brought many changes to Vita-Mix. Bill Barnard became the president, and his insistence upon research and development and product testing before live audiences produced a totally new kitchen appliance. It could no longer be considered a blender. In fact, there was no appliance in existence to which it could be compared. It was revolutionary in design, produced by a 24,000 RPM wood routing motor. It had flat, not sharp blades, and introduced new patented technology, instant blade reversal, which was invented by Bill's son, William Grover Barnard III. This amazing new appliance was unveiled in 1968 as the Vita-Mix Kitchen Center. Since then, even more powerful and more efficient models have evolved.
We actually designed the Vita-Mix the way we wanted it. They had a lot of ideas at the factory where we were having this built, but we knew how we wanted it ourselves. So we actually designed it. We had our camper there, and we took the camper out and pulled up to a filling station where they had electricity. And we plugged in the Vita-Mix machine, and we worked it and designed it, designed the blades, designed everything about it so that it would go backwards, it would do what we said it would do, and it's our machine. We made it.
The Vita-Mix 3600, the Vita-Mix 3600 Plus, up to our most recent model, the commercial Vita-Mixer 4000. It is the choice of professional chefs and hostesses everywhere. In 1986, Bill Barnard and his wife Ruth retired. Their leadership and pioneering spirit expanded the Vita-Mix to a multi-million-dollar corporation and launched it into international markets. You know what they say, behind every successful man is a successful woman.
Got my wife down there. She's quite a girl, and she likes to cook and she likes to show things. So I got her cooking, and she wrote the recipe book.
I wrote some recipe books, and it wasn't because I had a lifelong dream of writing recipe books. It was because Vita-Mix needed it.
We at Vita-Mix thank Bill and Ruth for their great contributions to Vita-Mix's success. At the helm of the Vita-Mix Corporation today is William Grover Barnard III. Learning the ropes is his teenage son, Billy Barnard IV. Grover Barnard's presidency has brought many helpful changes that continue to reflect the pioneering and innovative spirit of the Barnard family. Let's continue our tour of the Vita-Mix facility. Vita-Mix's engineering department has designed several domestic as well as commercial products. Presently, they are excited about near completion of a brand new commercial product. And with new products have come new tools to help design their products, such as the CAD system, which stands for Computer-Aided Design. The creative department makes extensive use of state-of-the-art desktop publishing systems for the production of cookbooks, sales literature, direct mail components, and national advertisements, as well as signs and posters for trade show exhibits. Our customer service department is thoroughly trained to help our customers and prospective customers in every way possible. All customer data is entered directly into our mainframe computer in order to retrieve whatever information necessary to help our customer at the touch of a button. Here is a multi-purpose production facility. Presently, it is configured to manufacture our Harvest Saver dehydrator, which comes in 3 sizes, 5-tray, 10-tray, and 20-tray, also known as the Big One. Here is our outbound telemarketing facility, where product experts provide helpful knowledge to anybody that requests additional information not provided in our brochures. And last but not least is our recipe test kitchen, which is fully equipped and managed by a professional home economist. Now let's show you how our facilities have expanded to meet the demands of various growth eras. The original offices were constructed in 1948, and as you can see, have grown to their present size, with the most recent addition being the large red building on the end. It houses the warehouse, production facilities, and some of the departmental offices you saw earlier. Now, folks, Vita-Mix feels like they are the inventors of live product demonstrations, and in fact, still exhibit at hundreds of fairs and conventions and home shows. Here's a clip of some of their national sales reps.
You never worry about that in the Vita-Mix because we guarantee our blades never to get dull. You have any idea why our blades won't get dull? That's easy. They aren't sharp. We made them flat and dull like the back of a knife.
And now, a brief preview of other Vita-Mix products.
Did you ever stop to think that the appliance used to clean your carpets, the vacuum, is one of the worst polluters of household air in your home? That's why most people dust their household furniture after they vacuum, not before. The carpets, cushions, and draperies in your home contain millions of mold spores, pollens, bacteria, dust mites, and smelly dust mite feces. These household allergens are so weightless and microscopically small that they pass right through the dirt bag or water trap in most vacuums and get blown right into the air we breathe. Whether vacuuming causes you to have allergic reactions or it doesn't, certainly you'd agree that clean carpets and clean air make for healthier living. Not only is the Vita-Vac one of the most powerful vacuums on the market, it is the only vacuum that passed the same clean air test that air purifiers must pass. Vita-Vac cleans the carpets and the air in your home. Its 4-stage filtration system removes odors and traps impurities that are 1/15 the diameter of a human hair. Vita-Vac, for those who like their homes to look clean and smell clean. Surely, everybody who loves the flavor of frozen treats has discovered that ice cream, fruit sorbets, and frozen yogurts can be made to taste even more delicious by mixing in chunks of various fruits, cookies, nuts, and candy bars. Ice cream parlors everywhere are gladly mixing your choice of fruits and cookies into your favorite frozen treat. One of the most efficient and reliable and easy-to-use commercial appliances for getting the job done is the Flurry, manufactured by the Vita-Mix Corporation and private labeled for thousands of fast food restaurants and convenience stores.
Just think how great it would be for your family to gladly reduce the amount of junk food they eat by substituting dried fruit snacks instead. This small dietary change could result in some very big reductions in your family's consumption of salt, chemical food additives, cholesterol, saturated fats, and refined sugars. With the Big One food dryer, you can buy food in bulk, cut it up as you see here, and dehydrate it for later use. It's faster and easier than canning. Preserving food in this way will save you up to 60% over grocery store prices. Your Big One food dryer will produce healthy snacks for dozens of occasions: kids' lunches, TV munchies, diet hunger pangs, after-school treats, vacations, camping, and sports events. The Harvest Saver food dryer comes in 3 sizes. For making healthy foods in soup starter, we have the compact 5 tray. For you who raise small gardens, we have the 10 tray. And for you who buy produce in bulk or raise lots of fruits and vegetables, we have the 20 tray Big One.
Pictured on your screen are 2 8-inch skillets. Each has been coated with butter and a layer of flour. They are placed on hot plates turned to the highest heat setting. The pan on the right is the heaviest of the 2. The skillet on the left is Vita-Mix's Neova 5-ply pan. The outside surfaces of this pan are made of stainless steel, polished to a beautiful mirror finish. Between the 2 outer layers of stainless steel are sandwiched 3 layers of aluminum, called heat channels. This makes possible the maximum amount of heat retention and permits energy-efficient, low-temperature cooking. Which pan is the least likely to burn your food? Which pan will spread heat evenly throughout the entire skillet surface for maximum cooking efficiency? Obviously, Vita-Mix's Neova Gourmet Cookware will give you the best cooking results. For healthful, waterless cooking and greaseless, low-cholesterol eating, Neova is unsurpassed.
We hope you have benefited from this presentation. If, for any reason, you need additional customer assistance, please don't hesitate to call us at 216-235-4840.